Metroid Dread is a game that shocked plenty of people, many of them for different reasons. Some people didn't know who this Metroid person was, some were excited out of their mind to see Metroid Dread, a game rumored to have been in production for forever about now, and others yet again shocked to see a new 2D Metroid in over 19 years. I myself was cool with it, I knew who Samus was and I was aware of the games, but I'd never actually played one of them. I tried a few Metroidvanias before, but they never really caught me. I don't know, something about the gameplay just never clicked with me. I don't know, something about exploration just... I never enjoyed them all too much. They were always good games, but like, I can never click with them. So, I'm Davron, and I'm going to be reviewing Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread was my very first Metroid game, and I went to it almost blind. And the game provided a good enough recap, so you won't get confused about anything, although it might be best to play some of the other Metroid games first so you're used to the difficulty. Because believe me, you're going to need it. This game is very, very hard. I won't be covering story because I don't consider myself a story reviewer, and in general I consider story to be almost irrelevant to how I enjoy my video games. Regardless, let's begin. Starting with Metroid Dread's gameplay, and this gameplay is excellent. It's one of the best games I've played in a long time. Metroid Dread is a Metroidvania where you control Samus, and you explore a world. You're trying to unlock new areas to get to your ship, after you had been stranded there and left almost powerless, through a process called physical amnesia. You have to try and get your powers back to surpass several challenges, and while yes, that does mean backtracking, I'm not a big fan of backtracking, but in Metroid Dread it was handled really well. You're given an item, you get a basic example of how to use it, and then you're instantly left to the place where you can use it to access a boss or something else, or progress in the game. The backtracking is handled well and it never feels too jarring. But to the main point, as Samus you can run, jump, and you have a variety of different moves. You have a melee parry counter. When the light flashes, you can use the parry counter to stun an opponent and shoot them. During the state, they're highly vulnerable, and you can get in a lot of shots on them, and this was really satisfying to time. It was challenging, and used very well, especially in the Emmy segments, which we'll be getting to later. But overall, counter, really fun to use. Also, you can shoot different weapons, like blasters, like the plasma beam, and the missiles, both of which you can get upgrades for. You unlock different types that let you do different things, access different areas, like the diffusion beam where you can shoot through walls, sort of. The ice missiles, which allow you to destroy these hot lava plants. The super missiles, the storm missiles. There's so many items and power-ups that you unlock, and you unlock them at such a frequent pace, then that keeps the gameplay from getting jarring. And in general, Metroid Dread just does a good job with its pacing. You never feel like you're progressing too quickly, but you also don't feel like it's dragging on like other Metroidvanias for me. So, that's why I really enjoyed Metroid Dread. It had the sense of a Metroidvania still, but it was also a bit more linear. Now, not to say that exploration is bad in a video game, obviously it can be handled extremely well, and it is handled extremely well here, but something about exploration just never clicked with me. I don't know, I like to go fast. And linearity is important to me. But I can still enjoy exploration perfectly fine. It doesn't detract from the quality of the game, no way. It's just a personal preference that I have. And Metroid Dread overall is definitely a very difficult game. Metroid Dread is an interesting case. Most of the games released nowadays are kind of easy. I found myself blowing through the recent games that I played, like Sonic Forces, and there's a fair few others, but they're all decently easy. I never really felt like I had a true challenge. And then Metroid Dread came along. Metroid Dread destroyed me. This was my first Metroid game, so I was not used to the challenge at all, and I was left confused after dying to the first boss over and over again. This game forced you. No, not forced you. This game told you, you're good, but you can get better. And oh boy, did I have to get better to beat these bosses. And it's not like it was ever unfair. The bosses were always great. They were well designed, and you knew that you could do it. You just couldn't do it yet, so you had to train, get better. Every boss that I kept dying on, eventually I beat and overcame. I beat Metroid Dread. It wasn't easy, but I did it. May not have been the fastest or the best run out there, but I felt proud when I defeated a really hard boss that I kept dying to. And it was really satisfying to finally be done with it. finish with a boss, and you get a new upgrade, which adds to the feeling of satisfaction. And to top it all off, Metroid Dread has some really excellent movement. You really feel smooth while playing, and the future upgrades you unlock, like the infinite jumps, the screw attack, the shine spark, and the speed booster, really make this game a heaven for speedrunners. I'm no speedrunner myself, but I found it a lot of fun to mess around with these and use them in creative puzzle solving the game throws at you. The game's puzzles, while not the most difficult, well, I shouldn't say that, while not the most complex all around, they're pretty fun, and you get a feeling of big-brainedness when you solve something that was really tough. And also, Metroid Dread really handles this well. It shows you these new things at the beginning that you can't interact with, that you can't go through yet. So then you're like, oh, when am I going to get this? And so you keep going, and you get it. But then, when you get the thing that you can use to break through the thing, that was a very weird sentence. When you get the thing that you can use to progress there to find a secret, you're probably long gone. So this game really does force you. This game doesn't force you to go back, it rewards you for going back, while also not holding you back if you don't retrace your steps to get something. It doesn't force you to retrace your steps all the way back to Artaria when you're in Gyron or something like that. Well, that was a bad example, but still, it doesn't force you to retrace your steps to the very first area when you're like close to the end of the game. And even when it does force you to retrace your steps, it always provides teleports and different ways to get there really quickly. So you can always get to the place of the action when you need to. You're always in the action in Metroid Dread, and especially, that's clear, in the Emmy zones. You enter the Emmy zones through this weird holographic portal door, and in here you just have to run for your life. You have no way of destroying an Emmy until you reach a central unit, where you can get an Omega Blaster and just take him out. And it's really cool, all the Emmys have these different things making them distinct, and these chases are genuinely well done, and they're terrifying. Every time I enter an Emmy zone, I fear for my life, and I run. There's nothing I can do, I just run. I died myself to a lot of the Emmys, but also, when I parried the enemy, it felt really, really satisfying. These were definitely really difficult, adding on to the general difficulty of the game already with its bosses and enemies. But the difficulty curve isn't too steep. It's definitely steep, it starts getting difficult really early, but it's manageable. And that's the thing that Metroid Dread does well. It's difficult, but manageable. You know that you can do this. You know that you can get through it. And Metroid Dread is just really well designed in general. There's not many moments where I felt like I was getting bullcrapped on. It was just fun to play. It was fun to get better, fun to redo a boss. I died? Yeah, I can get better. And that's just in general why Metroid Dread is such a well-designed game. On top of that, it sets a really amazing atmosphere. Every level, while it's still in this 2D plane, they make every level look distinct. From the forest to the water levels, everything looks amazing, crispy clear. You can tell that this is a different area from the last. My personal favorite has to be Gavaron, the underground forest, but also Ferenia looks really cool. Anyway, Metroid Dread handles this area of the game really well. It looks really nice, everything runs smoothly as well. I believe it's a solid 60, and it's amazing. Everything this game tried to do, it did. It did well. It exceeded my expectations completely. Metroid Dread is genuinely one of the best games I've ever played, and easily my game of the year 2021.